Hello everyone, my name is Star Pirate, and in this video I'm talking about the top 10 most used survivor perks. Now, what do I mean by top 10 most used survivor perks? I mean that for my last 100 plus matches of Dead by Daylight, I have recorded down every single one of the perks that the survivor team was using. I recorded all of these at red to purple ranks since that would be the easiest way to record it, as it would be at the highest ranks where players have been playing for a long time, so they have teachables unlocked and the blood points to fill out their blood webs and get the perks that they wanted. Now, a few things. Take this with a grain of salt, of course, because there are always some factors that may change. Like, for example, the team might be a survival with friends, so they're running different builds or running fun builds, or the people might be playing solo queue, so they're using a build that's more focused for solo queue, or they're doing their archives so that they're trying to get their challenge done and other things. Now, along with that, I'm going to be talking about the most used exhaustion perks, the healing perks, what perks were used the least, and it's not really going to be too surprising what perks were used the least, as all four of them were pretty bad. But yeah, that's what we're talking about in this video. And I'm going to start off quickly with number 10. In 10th place, we have Unbreakable. And this one isn't really a surprise. It's a very strong perk for anti-slugging, and it helps you recover faster. There's nothing really wrong with this perk. The only annoying thing is that if you're playing a killer that's slug heavy, that this perk really counters them, and it can slow down the end games and someone can pick them up. So this is a very strong perk, and it's very easy to see why it's number 10 and why this many people use it. It's a very strong perk. Very good. In number 9, we have Adrenaline, and I'm surprised that this perk is actually up here, considering how risky of a perk this is, since it only activates one time at the end game, and, you know, not all games reach the end game, or it's a scenario where you find hatch. So you really are gambling one perk slot on hoping this perk works, but when it does work, the payout is huge. This perk gives you a health state, it gives you a very large amount of speed and a long speed time, and it activates regardless of you're exhausted. So it's very good, but very risky, so it makes sense why it's kind of up here. In number 8, we have Kindred, the ultimate solo queue perk. If you run this perk, you're just a Chad. End of story. Everyone loves the person who brings Kindred. If you bring Kindred, everyone likes you and you're just the best. But seriously, this perk is very good even outside of solo queue, as it basically just lets your whole team coordinate, assuming you are the one on the hook. If you weren't on the hook, you now know what the other two members are doing, but it's still a very nice perk to run. Number 7, Decisive Strike. Now, this perk, when I first started it, I honestly thought this was going to be higher, maybe top 5 or something, but seeing how it recently got reworked so that it's no longer the for 60 seconds you can't touch me, I'm a porcupine sort of perk, and now it's actually a true anti-tunneling perk that I feel is really balanced, it's really fell off really quickly. It's no longer used that often, where it's not 4 people running it each game, but now it's usually just 1 or 2, but still, it's a very strong solo queue perk, and if you're actually getting tunneled, then you'll get some good value out of this. So it's still a good perk to run, it's just no longer the stupid OP build that it was. In number 6, the ultimate killer perk, Self-Care. Now, as a killer main, I really love seeing people run this perk because it's a huge waste of time, but I can see why people run it for 2 reasons. One, it actually makes it so that if you're using a med kit or healing yourself with an item, it makes it so you use less charges on it, so you can get more heals out of it. But at the same time, if you're just healing yourself in the corner of the map and there's sloppy butcher, you're just wasting about 50 seconds of time doing nothing, which is why it's really only good in solo queue if you're bringing an item, but otherwise, outside of that, it's just a big waste of time. And number 5, Spine Chill, the bane of all stealth killers' existences, and Preminition's cooler and better big brother, Spine Chill. This perk is basically just eyes and ears for you. You don't have to actually do anything, it does all the heavy lifting for you. If there's a stealth killer looking at you, you don't even need to look around, you just have to run and be like, okay, well, they're looking at me somewhere. Or if they're coming towards you and they have Tinkerer or some other undetectable effect, you just know they're coming before they can get to you. It's a really strong perk, and it plays the game for you basically. And also, don't run Premonition. If you run Premonition over fucking Spine Chill, I don't know what's wrong with you. Really, just run Spine Chill, it's 10 times better. Number 4, Sprint Burst. Now, honestly, this one isn't a surprise. It's Sprint Burst. It's what some people would consider the strongest exhaustion perk in the game, while some people would say Dead Hard's the strongest in the game. Personally, I feel Sprint Burst is a tad bit stronger, but still that's for you to decide. And yeah, Sprint Burst is a very strong perk. It gets you into pallets, it gets you to new safe areas. If you 99 it, you can get to another side of the map where there's a safe zone. It's just a really strong perk. If you run this perk, you can run away from fast killers who can get up to you quickly, like maybe Blight or Oni. You can get a really good head start and know where to loop before the killer can catch up to you. Now, starting off with the top 3, the kings of perks. Number 3, Iron Will. Yep, one of the best perks in the game, Iron Will. As soon as you get hit, you basically just become a mime and you make no more noise. You're completely silent. The only way a killer can track you audibly is just the footsteps, because you no longer make any like breathing noises, you don't make grunts of pain, you're just silent. This perk counters so many killers, like most importantly Spirit, but in a chase, you can just kind of run away at any time and the killer won't be able to hear your grunts of pain. If they're lucky, they can hear your footsteps running away, but over the chase music, they might not be able to hear it, which is why Iron Will is such a strong perk. When I first started using Iron Will, the effects were just immediately felt. You no longer made any noises as soon as I was injured, so I felt safe running around injured. It's just such a good perk that, honestly, if you can unlock it, which you should be able to since it's on Jake Park, one of the 4 free characters, you should just run it. If you don't know what else to run in your build, just run Iron Will. It's so good. And now in number 2, the arguably strongest exhaustion perk, Dead Hard. If you know how to use Dead Hard, then you basically can loop for extra 20 to 30 seconds at a time, and it's not hard to see why this perk is up here. It's literally known as press E to win as a perk, and it can counter some of the strongest killers because they have strong attacks with a big cooldown like Nurse, Blight, Pyramid Head, Oni, and other killers who have really long range attacks but have a big cooldown on it. So you just press the E button, Dead Hard, dodge that attack, and now you can just keep looping. This perk you can honestly really expect to see 2 or 3 minimum per game because it's just such a good perk and everyone runs it. It's so common now that basically when you're in any chase, you just always expect the Dead Hard unless you see them actually use their other exhaustion perk. Like if you see them sprint burst away, okay, no Dead Hard. But still, 9 out of 10 times they'll have Dead Hard. And now an honorable mention before we get to number 1, and that is Resilience. This is a very solid perk, honestly, and it's probably the only perk on this list that I genuinely don't mind going against, as its benefits aren't really stupid OP like maybe Iron Will or Dead Hard, and it's a nice risk/reward benefit where if you're injured, you do everything faster, but you're injured. So it's just such a nice perk idea that I wish more would do, since it would benefit doing stuff while injured instead of trying to run around and be healed. And now it's time for number 1, and it's not surprising what perk it is, Borrowed Time. Yep, here it is. It's not shocking to see that this perk is number 1 considering how strong it is. This one perk alone can make a game with 3 survivors in basement to a game where you have somewhat of a chance now, just because this one perk gives everyone super armor and they just can't get down easily. So you basically can just get everyone off the hook for free and don't have to worry about them going down, unless you have a turbo tunneling killer. Personally, I feel like after the rework, this perk somewhat got stronger, since now the Borrowed Time effect will always apply regardless of the tear radius. So now stealth killers will have to still worry about Borrowed Time hitting, and killers like Freddy and Ghostface, Wraith will now actually have to respect the Borrowed Time instead of being able to completely ignore it. And now Huntress can no longer cross-map hatchet snipe the person off the hook anymore, which is really good. Along with that, when they're unhooked, most survivors just say, hey, you can't hit me because I have enduring, so you basically just make them a living shield for like 12 seconds, which is really, really strong. Yeah, this perk being number 1 isn't a surprise. So now with the most used perks out of the way, let's talk about the most used exhaustion perks, and I'm going to be talking about them in the order from most used to least used. So obviously the first 3 are going to be Dead Hard, Sprint Burst, and Adrenaline, since those 3 were on the top 10 list. After that comes Lithe. Lithe is a very unique perk, considering that in some maps you don't really get to feel its benefits, considering that sometimes the vault locations aren't in good spots, like say on Midwich, where there's only a few select good spots to actually vault from and get some distance, while most of the time you're mostly just looping around in rectangular rooms, so there's no real vault location besides just a pallet. Next up, we have Balanced Landing, and Balanced Landing is a very niche perk considering that it only activates on fall. So if you're on a map that is mostly just flat terrain, like maybe the Ironworks of Misery or something, where the only fall locations are just the slabs on the ground of just raised hill, then you won't really get much use out of this perk. Rather, if you use this perk on something like Haddonfield, which is probably the best map for this perk, then you're going to get tons of value and make the life a living hell for the killer. Next up, we have Head On, one of the meme perks in the game, honestly, and it's a really strong and fun perk to use, as if you use it with D-Strike, you effectively have 10 seconds of stun on the killer just from getting picked up one time, which is really strong, or you can use it in Chase with Quick and Quiet to stun the killer, or maybe if your friend in a survivor friend runs by, you can stun the killer quickly by having them run by the locker. There's many applications to this. This perk is just very fun to use, but it's not really an actual chase perk like Dead Hard or Sprint Burst. And finally, to no surprise, the worst exhaustion perk in the game, Smash Hit. It's also the newest exhaustion perk. This perk is such a good idea, honestly, since it gives you more of a benefit to going for pallet stuns. So you can stun the killer and then instantly try and shoot to another pallet, but if the killer respects the pallet at all, they have a quick way to break it, like Oni, Hillbilly, or Bubba, Nemesis, or if they're a killer who's really fast or ranged, like Spirit and Nurse, who can just completely play around pallets, or Huntress or Deathslinger, who can just shoot over the pallet, this perk just loses all its value and it completely just falls flat. It's really sad because it's such a fun perk idea, but it just loses all of its value. And now for the least used survivor perks in all of Dead by Daylight, and it's 4. And these 4 honestly make a lot of sense, as you can see why people wouldn't really want to run them. The 4 are Buckle Up, No Mither, Soul Survivor, and Up the Ante. All 4 of these perks just are terrible. Buckle Up is genuinely useless. There is no benefit to using this perk. It counters 1 perk knockout, and its benefit isn't even that good. It makes it so you can just pick up people like slightly faster, and then you can see this killer's aura when you pick them up. Like, it's just whatever. It's really whatever. Then there's No Mither. Honestly, people give this perk way more shit than it deserves, because it can counter slugging. You can't slug a No Mither player because they can pick themselves up infinitely. So just by being downed, you apply pressure to the killer, because normally when a killer slugs, they're like, okay, I will leave you here, so then the survivors will have to come and pick you up. But if you have No Mither, they can't do that. They have to pick you up and hook you, which, you know, is bad because, you know, you get hooked, but still, it doesn't mean that you can get slugged easily. Like, if you're going against a Twins, who is the strongest slug killer, I would say, or maybe Nurse, they can't slug you anymore, because as soon as they down you, they have to go and pick you up instantly. Next, we have Soul Survivor. This perk legit just needs a rework. This is one of the worst perks in the game, as it's a team game, right? You're surviving with your friends, or you're playing with 3 other players, because it's a 4v1 game. And this perk relies on your teammates dying. As your teammates die, you get a very niche bonus of aura reading. Aura reading, that's it. You don't do actions faster, you don't vault faster, you don't heal faster, nothing. It's just less aura reading for the killer. It's useless. It's really bad. Like, this perk needs a rework. And then Up the Ante. Up the Ante is just completely god-awful and useless. It gives more luck, but as the devs even know, luck is the legitimate most useless thing in all of Dead by Daylight, is it affects one singular thing, and that's stage 1 of being on the hook and being able to unhook yourself. That's it. That's all luck does. It doesn't give you more skill checks. It doesn't give you better odds for items or anything like that. Nope. It's only and only unhooking yourself. So these 4 perks basically have no value except for No Mither, technically, because I still see some value. Would I run it? No. But is there some value to it? Yes. Now for the healing perks, honestly, most of them were pretty low except for just self-care and botany knowledge. The rest didn't really make the cut. Stuff like Desperate Measures or Autodidact were pretty low because they have niche uses. Honestly, Autodidact is pretty good if you get it to work. If the perk made it so you got more skill checks, this perk would be completely broken and one of the best perks in the game. So it's kind of like right on that line of being usable, but it's not that good. Then there's Desperate Measures, which is just reverse Thanatophobia. So if you get 1 or 2 people injured, then you're healing faster, which is nice, but you need people to be injured. So you always basically have a flat 13% speed bonus to healing, which is pretty nice. But still, you should just run botany knowledge, or maybe for the people if you're feeling nice, or maybe you can just bring a med kit, you know. There's many options. So there you have it, the most used survivor perks. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was honestly just terrible to do because no human being should be forced to play this much Dead by Daylight. It's just suffering. It's suffering by daylight. We all know it. But still, I just wanted to get this video out there because I found this really interesting to do. A lot of the numbers, I thought like maybe Spine Chill would be higher, or Borrow. I honestly thought Dead Hard or Decisive Strike would be higher up on this list compared to Borrowed Time. But it's just amazing to see how the meta is, because the meta is very stagnant as is. These 10 perks, you will always see at least 2 people running a build with these perks in it. You know, occasionally you'll get the flip-flop, tenacity, unbreakable gamer. I've been hit by the power struggle flip-flop gamer. It was pretty funny, but still, most of the time, it's just these perks. But yeah, that's it, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Follow me on Twitch. I'm going to be streaming every now and again. I usually stream PST around 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. PST. And yeah, have yourselves a great day.